Hey, Successors, before we get into the show today, I'd like to tell you about my new book, Indulge Your Affirmative Motivation Within, 25 Motivations of Personal Development and Life Success. If you're struggling to stay motivated or just need a little boost, check out the ways that I've stayed motivated over the last few years. Go ahead and go over to Amazon.com and grab yourself a copy. That's Indulge Your Affirmative Motivation Within, 25 Motivations of Personal Development and Life Success. Get it now. On with the show.
Success. Media. Network. Network. Network, 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 network.
This is your show.
Good day, Successors. I'm Antonio Holman, and welcome to the 4 Principles of Success, number 74, where I chat with successful people and entrepreneurs about how they enhance their businesses and lives in the areas of knowledge, health, wealth, and spirituality. And if you want to learn how I've stayed motivated throughout the years, check out my new book, Indulge Your Affirmative Motivation Within, 25 Motivations of Personal Development and Life Success, now on Amazon. Today, we're talking to Heather Dominick. Heather is located in Manhattan, New York, and is the host of the Business Miracles podcast, the founder and leader of the HSE, Highly Sensitive Entrepreneur Movement, where her teachings demonstrate how highly sensitive traits, when used as strengths rather than shadows, can create effective entrepreneurial achievement. Her deep wisdom reaches over 100,000 highly sensitive entrepreneurs around the globe through various social media channels, as well as her website, businessmiracles.com. Throughout her career, Heather has helped thousands of HSEs release lifelong limiting beliefs, overcome fears, and learn how to build their businesses, creating solid, sustainable, high-level financial success. Heather, are you ready to help our listeners prepare for success?
I am so ready and so excited.
All right, here we go. You got a lot of things going on, it seems, but we know nothing about your personal life. Fill us in on that.
Well, as you said, I live in Manhattan, New York, and I live here with my sweetheart husband, and I have been in business for 15 years, but have been living in New York for over 20. And I always get asked the question, how in the world, as a person who's highly sensitive, can I live in Manhattan? And my answer is twofold. One, I've always been really lucky to just be able to find very sacred, quiet apartment spaces within the city. And two, that actually Manhattan is so much more than Times Square. And those who come to visit tend to think of Manhattan as only Times Square, but actually it's really comprised of some very beautiful, quaint, and quiet neighborhoods, and I just love living here. And I'm a few steps from Central Park, which is probably just one of my most treasured places in the world. So that is just a little bit of personal about me.
So what inspired you to get into the field of business coaching, and specifically the coaching of highly sensitive entrepreneurs?
Yes. Well, it has definitely been an organic, unplanned journey. So I will try to give the shortest version possible of this unplanned journey. And that journey starts with my previous career, which was actually as a high school drama teacher. And I was teaching high school for 8 years, and I loved my work and I dearly loved my students, but I really felt like I was being called to something beyond the limitations of just the particular systems and structures of the public school system. And I also, in retrospect, think that, living through 9/11 and not very far from ground zero probably really had an impact, because I decided to become self-employed just a couple of years after 9/11. I started my first business as a nutrition and wellness coach and found the experience simultaneously extremely rewarding and absolutely deeply, deathly terrifying. And it was really through that terror that I made the decision to really start to bring my spiritual life into my business. And I've, at this point, have been a student of A Course in Miracles, which is a spiritual and psychological curriculum and teaching. At this point, I've been a student for over 30 years. And so I really started at that time to just bring, again, that spiritual practice into my business, again, just to kind of keep myself from going crazy. And it really helped. And eventually I built that business up to full capacity within 9 months' time. And then after that, other health practitioners started asking, how was I able to be in business full time? Because I know it seems kind of crazy now, but, just even at that time, 15 years ago, it was a lot less common for nutritionists or massage therapists or Reiki practitioners or life coaches to be able to be successfully self-employed full time. So I started sharing just kind of very quietly and shyly what I was doing in terms of merging the two. And that eventually led to the next incarnation of my work, which was really about spiritual marketing and business. And then about 8 years ago, I had built my business up to a significant financial marker. I had crossed the 7-figure mark for the first time, and I was absolutely miserable. And I had really just come to a place where I was absolutely overexhausted. I was overwhelmed, and I was really questioning what I was doing. And it was absolutely a dark night of the soul. And one of the things that I always like to emphasize when I'm sharing this is that my state of overexhaustion and overwhelm was not because of the income that I was generating, but it was because of the way that I had gone about generating that income. And it was really that dark night of the soul that led me to come to understand that I was highly sensitive. And I had never really even heard that terminology, which was established by founding researcher Dr. Elaine Aron in the early 1990s. So I hadn't heard that term before. And once I did, it didn't surprise me so much that I was highly sensitive. But what really surprised me was once I took one of her assessments, how highly sensitive I was. And because I'm a true believer and have always taught as one of my foundational principle trainings that your ideal client is a version of you, I brought one of Dr. Aron's assessments into an in-person meeting of 25 entrepreneurial women that I was leading at the time. And I had them take the assessment. And every single woman in that room was highly sensitive. And again, being that I understood that my ideal clients are a version of me, the fact that they were highly sensitive didn't surprise me so much. But what surprised me there was how much they did not want to be highly sensitive. They really saw it as a weakness, and they saw it as a detrimental label. So I had already really had the sense with my own discovery that this was something that was very important, and it was going to really make a difference for how it is that I operated in my business. But once I really had that experience with those first 25 women, I really thought, okay, something very important is happening here. And according to Dr. Aron, those of us who are highly sensitive, we make up 20% of the global population. And also, according to her research and work, we're born into the world this way. And what it means basically is that if you're highly sensitive, your nervous system is wired differently than someone who's not highly sensitive. So that really has to do with how you process information and stimulation. So for example, like something that might be like, like not really highly stimulating or stimulating at all, or, maybe just good old fun for someone who's not highly sensitive could be enough to really kind of blow, a highly sensitive over, whether it's, an external stimulation like noise or sounds or, noise and sounds are the same. Noise, sounds, smells, any kind of, lights or just even energy that you're picking up from other people. So what that really showed me is, okay, this really means that those of us who are highly sensitive, we need to approach everything about our business differently: marketing, selling, operations. And that really began the creation of the body of great work that I now offer in all of my mentoring programs, and the difference that it's made for myself and so many other highly sensitives that I've had the honor to mentor. And I guess the last bit that I'll share there is that, what's really ironic and kind of interesting is that those of us who are highly sensitive, when we're in our strengths, what I refer to as our HSE strengths, we're really coded to be excellent coaches and healing practitioners and creative entrepreneurs. It's kind of what we were brought into the world to do. According to Dr. Aaron, we are the royal advisors that are here to bring balance to the rest of the warrior kind of king and queen aspects of society and our culture. And so it can turn into this really torturous, frustrating experience for a person who's highly sensitive. They know that they're good at what they do. They really feel called to start a coaching business or be a really successful healing practitioner or really be able to bring their, creative aspects out into the world as an entrepreneur. But when it comes to the business part of things, that's where the learning really kicks in. And again, that's where things really need to be done differently. So that's the scoop. That's my journey.
Now, I feel you touched on the highly sensitive person pretty generally, but let's get a little more specific with this next question. What does it mean to be a highly sensitive entrepreneur versus just a regular old entrepreneur? What does that really mean? What are those details?
Sure, absolutely. So again, if you're highly sensitive, you're highly sensitive. It's how you were born into the world. So one of the things that I like to say is it's not something that your parents did to you. You didn't pick it up on the playground in kindergarten, and it's not because of that really weird purple drink that you had at a college party. It's been with you from day one. And if you're not highly sensitive, then you're not. So being a highly sensitive entrepreneur is a person who's highly sensitive, who's chosen to be self-employed. What that breaks down to in terms of how that looks on a daily basis is really so much of what I teach in my mentoring programs, which is about having an inner and outer approach to business. So from the inner aspect, being highly sensitive and choosing to be an entrepreneur requires you to really understand how it is that your wiring works differently and how to really be proactive with that different wiring, because most likely up until now, no one's ever taught you how to do that. The rest of the world is designed for the other 80%, including most of our schooling and training. I don't know, I'm so happy to hear from anyone. If in your grade school, lower school, middle school, high school, college, you were able to take a class that said how to be successful in the world as a person who's highly sensitive. As of right now, I don't know of one that's been offered in the last 20 plus years. So there's a real retraining that's required. But once you really learn how to navigate your inner terrain in a way where it's working for you rather than against you, then you're really able to show up and you're able to approach marketing and selling and operations, as I mentioned earlier, in a way that's a fit and a match and aligned for you, which I'm going to say is not what's being taught out there in the majority of business training, because the majority of business training is designed for the other 80%, which is not going to work for you. It didn't work for me. It brought me to a place of absolute exhaustion. And the majority of people who show up on the doorsteps of my mentoring programs are at their wits' end. They've tried everything. They've taken every program, every online course. They've ordered every product, and still they're barely generating income, if at all. And then once they enter into my mentoring programs and I teach how to approach business differently, again, from that inner and then different outer approach, then I have my mentees, the members in my community and my mentoring programs, are enrolling clients and are building up their businesses and doing it in a way that feels really good to them so that it's sustainable. So that's the best kind of answer I can give, but I'm happy to go more nitty gritty if you've got more nitty gritty questions.
When it comes to coaching highly sensitive entrepreneurs, what are the three main areas they seem to struggle with most?
Marketing. Well, let me put them in order. Selling is absolutely the most difficult. And then marketing. And then how to go about the organization of the business on a day-to-day.
In your HSE coaching, there are three must-haves in the equation you call the necessary success formula. What are those three must-haves, and explain why they are so important to success as an HSE?
Absolutely. Community, core practice, and consistency. So community is really the first and foremost, and I always like to emphasize that when I say community, I really mean aligned community. So it's very, very powerful for highly sensitives to be in a community of other highly sensitives who are also pursuing the path of being an entrepreneur. And here's the reason why. One is that there are three primary coping mechanisms that I've identified that show up for HSEs. We tend to either fall into the coping mechanism of pushing, which means that if you tend to be a pusher, you will get done what the other 80% can get done. It will come at a very high cost for you, and usually in the form of some type of physical ailment. Or you can tend towards the coping mechanism of hiding, which means that you will do anything and everything to prevent yourself from even possibly being overstimulated or overwhelmed. So when it comes to being in business, you have probably the most beautiful website. You've got the most gorgeous marketing materials. You've probably even formulated some incredible products and programs. But when it comes to actually selling and marketing, suddenly there's a lot of laundry to do, or someone's hamster needs to be taken care of, or anything else where you will be able to distract yourself from stepping into those necessary business acts, and all under usually some kind of sense of martyrdom. That someone or something else needs me. Or you tend towards the coping mechanism of what I refer to as the combo platter, which is that you bounce back and forth between the two, between pushing and hiding. So in community, in aligned community, it's very, very difficult to get away with being in that coping mechanism. You will absolutely be seen and lovingly called out for hiding or pushing or combo plattering. Community also really plays towards one of our HSE strengths, which is that as highly sensitives, we have the ability to learn without realizing we're learning. So when we're in community, rather than hiding out and just private one-on-one support, when someone else in the community is accelerating, you are literally energetically and cellularly taking that in. So you can kind of think of it like an energetic wave that's pulling you along in a very supportive manner. So it's allowing you to be able to create more easily and more quickly and just overall more effortlessly. So that's really the power of community. Then there's the power of core practice. So as highly sensitives, we tend to have developed many types of core practices that serve us personally. They might actually just be habits, but I do know a lot of highly sensitives who are very proactive in their personal life with core practices. It often also connects with their spiritual life. But what's really imperative is to learn how to develop core practices for your business. And a core practice is something that you are establishing an act that's supportive of your learning process, and you return to this core practice regularly. Might be daily, might be weekly, might be every other week, might be monthly, but it's really there serving and supporting creation of a real strong, solid foundation. And then there's consistency. And this is an area that highly sensitives struggle with immensely. So you've got the community, you've got the core practice, and now it's about showing up consistently, showing up in the community consistently, showing up to your core practice consistently. Research has proven, not just for highly sensitives, that for anyone to really be able to shift and adjust and change a way of behaving, you are best served to do small practices regularly. Rather than, so say maybe let's take like a personal practice of meditation. You're going to be better off and you're going to be serving the strengthening of your meditation muscle to do 5 minutes a day rather than 30 minutes once a week. So consistency is absolutely key for highly sensitives because we have to learn a different way. Like I said, we have to learn a different way that's not about our coping mechanisms, and we have to learn a different way that's not about how the other 80% does it. So this is where then all three really tie together. It becomes kind of like a beautiful circle and loop because community helps you to stay connected with the core practices and helps you to stay consistent. And being consistent then helps you to constantly receive from the community, and round and around in a very nourishing way we go. So those are the three elements. That's why they're important. That's how they work. And it's also a bit about the difference in the impact that they make.
As we all know, life's a big, giant roller coaster of ups and downs, and nothing's ever the same and happy throughout our journeys. Throughout your journey, what do you feel was the time you felt most unsuccessful?
Which one to pick? What shall I share first? Well, so let's really go like kind of back to the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. As I mentioned, I lived through 9/11. That was really just one aspect of that year of 2001. Just a couple weeks before 9/11, I had taken a new teaching job. So previously, before that, I had taught on Long Island, which for me at the time was an hour and a half commute each way. The Long Island community that I was teaching in was a very affluent community. It was a public school, but it was very affluent. The public school system in that community really honored their teachers. I don't know if it's the only one at this time, but it was at that time, it was the only school district that actually really honored education for its teachers all the way up to providing a six-figure salary. So there were teachers who had PhDs at the school, and who were doing very well. And I was on a great track. I had just received tenure, and yet I knew just in my heart that was not where I was meant to be. And again, I didn't know I was highly sensitive at the time, but the pressure of that particular school district, and then partnered with that 3-hour commute every day, really felt like it was literally killing me. So again, just a couple weeks before 9/11, I had started a new teaching job. I took a job teaching at an inner city school in Manhattan. It was so different than the public school that I had been teaching at on Long Island, but I could walk to work, and I really loved that. And I loved the students that I was teaching with, but that job and taking that job came with pretty much close to a 50% salary cut. So I had pieced together some other after school positions, and was planning on starting those. Most after school positions, or at least at that time, usually kicked in towards the end of September. So our school year starts in September in New York. And then I had started that new job. Then I think I went to orientation. That's right. I went to new teacher orientation. And then over the weekend, before my official first week in the classroom, the man that I was dating at the time, where we had talked about getting engaged, actually let me conveniently know that he didn't love me. And so that relationship really drastically and dramatically ended. And then 3 days later was 9/11. And so to say that I had been emotionally and energetically sucker punched is really kind of an underestimating description. And because of 9/11, not only, of course, was it devastating to our country, had such a negative impact on our world, but New York City at that time pretty much shut down. Businesses closed, people moved away, and programs that were meant to run just became non-existent. So suddenly, not only did I not have a romantic relationship, and not only did I not have the salary that I had had the year before, and not only had my city been attacked and black smoke just consistently hovering over my neighborhood, but the after school jobs that I had lined up to be able to help me be able to make rent, pay my bills, disappeared. And so I remember, especially for that fall, just being the person that I am. I always got up. I always went to work. I always showed up fully for my students. And after work, after school, I would come home and I would get in bed. I was barely eating. And the way that I would basically survive, just manage my anxiety, is that on the weekends I would get up and I would take the subway to Central Park, because I had to take the subway at that time. I would walk the entire loop of Central Park, which is just over 6 miles. I would go back home, I would get in bed. I'd get up on Sunday, I would do it again. I'd go back home and get in bed, and I'd get up on Monday and I'd go to work. So, about 6 months after 9/11, and slowly, barely coming out of, what I would say was absolutely post-traumatic stress, I then also had to declare bankruptcy, because I couldn't do it. And the city had completely shut down. Obviously here I am today, and I did make my way out of that very, very dark time. And yet, when I started my business a few years later, and as I had mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, I can look back and I can absolutely say that 9/11 was probably a really strong impetus. But I started my business under bankruptcy. So whenever I hear from anyone that, even if they're highly sensitive, that they can't start their business because of this, that, or the other thing, I always just know deep in my heart, deep in my gut, deep in my soul, that if this is something that you're called to do, from my own experience, you can absolutely transcend. And it really is just a question of how much do you want this?
What was your most challenging client-related situation, and how did you resolve it?
Well, I think that's a harder question to answer. I'm very blessed in that I am very aligned with the majority of my clients. Every once in a while, I will say that we attract to our mentoring programs what I refer to as OSEs rather than HSEs. And an OSE is for an overly sensitive entrepreneur. And being overly sensitive, just from an emotional standpoint, is very different than actually physically being a highly sensitive person who has chosen to be self-employed. So when an OSE suddenly finds themselves in a Business Miracles mentoring program, and they realize that we are here to teach personal responsibility and not, cater, coddle, and enable overly sensitive behavior, that OSE tends to not be very happy. and they have found themselves in not necessarily the expected place that they had imagined. And so that usually, comes to a point where the person, the OSE, is very clear that they're not interested in being empowered. They're not interested in actually really doing what I refer to as the real work, to dig deep, to really put into core practice the inner and outer approach that is necessary for an HSE to be successful. And so what typically happens is that we, come to the understanding that our work is really not a match for who they are, and that it's really best that we go our separate ways.
What do you feel was one of the hardest things in your business to overcome that you've since conquered?
Besides everything that I just shared, I don't know how much deeper I can dig. Besides how I started, besides the massively deep, dark night of the soul that I experienced halfway through my entrepreneurial journey, let's see. I'm going to say it's not the most difficult, but I will say it's just, consistently challenging. But I really look at it more as an opportunity. When you put a lot of creative energy into something, and then it doesn't go how it is that you've planned. And I would say for me, probably where I feel the impact about that the most is not so much on the creation of the programs or curriculum that I offer, or, even the marketing. But, when a lot of time, attention, and energy and resources has been invested in team, and then it really just turns out that, that team member is not the most ideal match, or it might just, be their time to move on in a different direction. That's always difficult, manageable, but difficult, just like any relationship that you invest in. And then when it's gotten to a place where it perhaps is not meant to continuously evolve, there's just a process of letting go and being able to move on from there.
What one thing in your business are you currently struggling to overcome?
Well, I have to say, things are kind of pretty much moving and grooving right now, and moving right along. I would say, what? I can answer that question. I would say the thing to overcome is that, I really recognize that I am at one of those points that I have hit many times throughout my self-employed career, and we all do, which is where we really recognize that we're meant to go to the next level. And, for me, that is about putting my great body of work into a book, which I acknowledge you so much for having written one. And so right now it's really about being able to create the sacred space to work on that project while, continuing to have all of the pieces of the, current business and our service moving forward. And so that just requires a bit of a reconfiguration of team and the way that we do things. And then for myself, and what I put as a priority when and where. So I would say that probably is what I'm facing right now.
What do you feel is your one biggest business triumph to date?
I would say my one biggest business triumph is the community that I have built. I know that there is no other community like it. And it's also, as part of the community, is the body of work that I've developed. We have 4 tracks of curriculum for our mentoring programs, and every single aspect of every teaching that I share is designed specifically for highly sensitive entrepreneurs. It's unique. It comes from my heart, my soul, my own experience. It's not regurgitated information from every other internet course or coaching program out there. And the work just continues to go deeper and deeper. And that, as part of the community, as part of the curriculum, is also how we serve as a coach team. That we really are a high touch organization. We really serve to support every single HSE who's in our mentoring programs, and no one gets lost on our watch. This is not a place where you just, kind of invest in a coaching program, realize that just by, making the investment, your life isn't going to be transformed, and then, sneak back away into hiding. We are really there supporting every single HSE along the way. And, the businesses and lives that have transformed as a result continue to transform in front of my eyes. That is it. That is everything that it's about for me. You take someone who felt so frustrated, felt like they were given this gift almost as a curse, from God, because they don't know how to use it. They don't know how to monetize it. And then watch them be able to come into a confident, empowered place where they can have a successful selling conversation. They can market in a way that feels good. They're not afraid to be seen in their marketing. And then most importantly, they're enrolling clients and being able to be of service. I mean, again, I can't think of a better reason to get up in the morning. So that really is it.
What do you feel is your one biggest personal triumph today?
I would say my biggest personal triumph is my marriage. My husband and I are deeply connected and committed to each other. And, since day one have been committed to the growth of the relationship. And, now that you all know where I came from and that I couldn't maintain a romantic relationship to save my life in my 20s, I'm very, very, very grateful, but also very proud of the consistent daily investment that I make in that relationship.
Hang tight, successors. We'll return to our conversation with Heather Dominick as well as quick success after a word from our sponsors. Are you a tense, tired, busy person who works day in and day out who tends to lack the proper sleep and energy? Using modular supplements, health-related articles, recipes, life hacks, and more, Bellison can help. With quality as high as Bellison, you're buying from a company that cares about the environment and only uses premium vegan supplements. That's Bellison.com. Want to learn how to cook healthy, exercise, and meditate in just 30 minutes a day? Bellison.com. Want to feel healthy, energetic, and focused like me? Bellison.com. To receive a 10% discount at checkout. Whoa, hold on. Now receive even more health benefits with a 20% discount at checkout. Go to Bellison.com with the coupon code the4POS to get your 20% off now. Visit Bellison.com. That's Belisan.com. Compassion and quality without compromise. Bellison.com. Are you tired of trying every new diet fad? Sick of the pills, shakes, and vibrating belts? Are you just sick and tired of being sick and tired? Linda Lavender knows exactly how you feel. That's why she created Eat to Live to Love. Eat to Live to Love is a personalized mentoring program 100% unique to you. With 24/7 support, learn to shop smart, save money, eat clean, and find your purpose using the tools and resources you need to achieve real weight loss and transformative healing without ever having to buy another gimmicky fat-sucking wrap or magic protein shake. Eat to Live to Love has been the driving force behind people across the United States to not only change their lives, but to actually take back control. Find out how health coach Linda Lavender can help you become your own hero and transform your life at eattolivetolove.com or call 1-888-440-9795 for a free initial consultation. Stop just dreaming about success and make it happen with Eat to Live to Love. Visit eattolivetolove.com now. That's eat, the number 2, live, the number 2, love.com. Eat to Live to Love. Healing, weight loss, and fitness. And we're back with podcaster and business coach, Heather Dominick. Now we get into the part of the show I like to call Quick Success, where you, Heather, can inspire the successors to enhance their lives in the areas of knowledge, health, wealth, and spirituality. Heather, what are you currently doing to enhance your knowledge?
What I'm currently doing to enhance my knowledge, well, I'm a big fan of just understanding your strengths in general. So there's the strengths of being a person who's highly sensitive, and then there's also the work of the Strength Finder 2.0. One of my top strengths is learner. So I am currently working on the teachings that I'll be presenting at the spring training retreat that is for Business Miracles Mentoring Program members. I always teach new curriculum. For this training retreat, I'll be focusing on how to shift the HSE shadows of overwhelm, overprotection, and over responsibility into peaceful productivity and prosperity. So I'm knee deep in preparing that training and massively enjoying it. That is my knowledge.
What are you currently doing to enhance your health?
Well, for those of us who are highly sensitive, in the same way that I talk about, you need to be able to approach your business differently. It pretty much applies to all aspects of your life, and that definitely really includes your health. So probably things that will work for the other 80%, like a soul cycle class or, lifting weights at the gym, is not going to work for you. And that definitely applies to me. I'm a big walker because I live in Manhattan, and it's one of the things that I love about living in Manhattan. So I always aim for 10,000 steps a day. And actually, on a trip to Paris in the last year, I became kind of addicted to counting my steps via my iPhone. So that's one. And then I also do a practice. It's called gyrotonics. It's similar to Pilates, but you work with weights are on pulleys rather than springs. Springs is Pilates, pulleys is gyrotonics. So I work with a gyrotonics trainer 1 to 3 times a week. And then I'm always very aware of what I'm putting in my body, trying to take in as little gluten, alcohol, or sugar as possible. And that's my health.
What are you currently doing to enhance your wealth?
Well, I think wealth is such a beautiful and abundant term on its own. So I think really the way that I've described how it is that I serve my community, the Business Miracles community that I've created and developed, that is my wealth for me. I'm very, very fed through that process.
What are you currently doing to enhance your spirituality?
So one of the primary teachings that I share in especially my 6-month mentoring program, which is the 13 foundational principle trainings. Foundational principle training number 1 is all about how to manage your energy. And that really makes all the difference as a person who's highly sensitive. We also have the HSE strength of being deeply spiritual by nature. So I start every single day with my own core practice. That includes energy management, that includes meditation, and that includes writing in some form.
Are there any modern technologies or apps that you use to help you achieve success?
Yes, I just talked about counting my steps. Yeah, I really, really am totally addicted to that app. Yeah, so I know that's it. That's my number 1.
What app is that?
Well, there's the app that just comes with the iPhone, but then there's also an additional app that's called Steps, STEPZ. And not only will it show you the steps that you've taken for the day, but how many calories you've burned. And it also compares the days in the week. So you can see, the path that you've traveled throughout the week. And yeah, I probably check that app at least 10 times a day, if not more.
What new thing, book, activity, technology, or skill are you really excited to learn and dive into?
That is a great question. Well, I recently read last year the newest book by Martha Beck, which is Diana herself. It's an allegory. And I just fell in love with this book so much that I assigned it as part of the curriculum for the highest and most intimate level of HSEs that I work with, which is in my Eminence Mentoring program. So we're all working through that book together over the next 12 months. And it really has been so incredibly transformational. I absolutely bow down to Martha in many ways, but that book is slap down brilliant. And
Successors, Heather has a special offer for you. Heather, what is that?
Yes. So as you've been listening, if you're kind of thinking, I don't know, I might be highly sensitive. And if you are an entrepreneur or are thinking about starting a business, I would definitely recommend taking the HSE free quiz. And you can get that at www.hsequiz.com. And it's not a quiz as in a pass or fail or judgment or leftover trauma from fourth grade. It's actually, I've been told by many, a very enjoyable and insightful experience. And as you go through the quiz or self-assessment or even just self-discovery process, at the end, first of all, you'll find out if you're highly sensitive. And if you are, you'll also find out if you're somewhat highly sensitive or if you're super highly sensitive or if you're like me and you're a super uber highly sensitive. And depending on where you land at the end of that quiz experience, you'll also receive a free HSE success guide, which will support you in taking those first steps to learn how to begin to work with yourself as a person who is highly sensitive, who's chosen to be self-employed. And that success guide, again, will support you. Specifically, you'll have your own copy if you're somewhat, or a different copy if you're super, or if you're a different copy if you're super uber. So that's hsequiz.com. And again, if you've been listening, you're thinking, that sounds sort of like me, I definitely recommend. It will really change everything for you.
All right, successors, you hear that? Get the free HSE quiz at hsequiz.com. Heather, how can our listeners connect with you?
You can connect with me at businessmiracles.com. And you can also always send me an email, info@businessmiracles.com.
Finally, Heather, what's your definition of success?
I would say my definition of success is fulfillment. And I really see fulfillment as something that's fluid and ongoing and ever-changing and not a final destination. So it's just a matter of having the sense of fulfillment just where you are at any point, at any time, throughout any day. It might be because you've caught a beautiful sunset. It might be because you've enrolled a new client. It might be because you actually made it, past 2 minutes of meditation or cooked a fabulous dinner for people that you love. That's my definition of success.
Successors, I hope you've enjoyed my conversation with Heather Dominick. Please check out more successful free content just like this at the4pos.com, as well as rate, review, and subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. Thanks for listening and prepare for success. If you want to do more, earn more, be more, and stay more motivated, visit Amazon.com right now for a copy of Indulge Your Affirmative Motivation Within, 25 Motivations of Personal Development and Life Success. Get it now at Amazon.com.